so nice to see roadside stands grow up outside of people's farms. You see more and more of those, the agricultural stands where people can sell their own stuff.
Yes, there is a resurgence to it. There's a
is.
resurgence to homesteading for sure, and that's fine, But our small, and if you go to the big farmers markets in the big towns, you go, oh, we've got all this abundance. It's the rural towns and the small farmers markets that when you enlist and you say, hey, can you sign up for something? People sign up, but it might be crafts.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with crafts. I do a bunch of them. It might be, woodworking or needlepoint or not the percentage of craft or product as opposed to grown food in our rural communities is sad.
Well, that's
sad. We need more growers. Don't be fooled by the big markets.
Well,
we need more.
That really came home with me when I lived in New York. And, in New York, the corner grocery store, some of the freshest fruit I've ever had in my life with the most diversity right there on this corner store right there at 32nd Street. And yet I come home and I eat in a restaurant where everything came out of a can.
Yeah.
And when I moved from New York and came back, it was shocking. My first wife was from California and New York and everything, and it was shocking to her when she came back. It's like, where's all the fresh food? What?
Because you have farmland out here.
That's right.
Why don't we have? I just had this conversation with someone. Why is it in our and I won't have the full answer. I'll give you my immediate thought on it. But why is it in our rural areas where people grew up with? Now you got to go back a few generations. For some people, used to grow their own food.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we are a few generations of, I believe, economics affected that. And when you're hurting, whether it was the farm went bad or I had to take a job an hour out and I'm driving and I'm working all the time, so I can't grow food. I think economics took some of that away from us. I think, and I hate to use poverty, but in some cases, poverty took that away. And it was cheaper to get crap in a can than it was.
Well, it's difficult because
to have the time to do it.
When you have an issue of supply and demand, your farmers are punished for having a big supply because prices drop.
Yeah.
And it's one of the biggest conundrums, and it goes into what type of social planning do you need to put into place so people can say, well, you can grow this much. And they did it with the tobacco industry with the tobacco allotments to keep the price stable.
Right.
But for folks growing corn, how can you make money off your excess if everybody's growing to excess and there's no market for it?
Yeah. It's a difficult balance for sure, but it's also not feeling like one farmer has to grow for the whole country.
Right.
We got in that industrial food, bigger is better kind of thing, and
it's about economy of scale and
then,
what they think.
Then we hit a hiccup, whether that's health or
Viruses.
National security, no matter what happens, and we see how fragile that system is. Whereas if we had had more of a local food system, really strong local food system, that supply chain wouldn't have been as big a deal.
Yeah. I think about it every time. When we were growing up, to go out to eat was kind of a special thing.
Oh, yeah.
Mom cooked or whatever. There was always food at the table. Going out to eat was a birthday or a Christmas or something other.
Yes.
And now everybody goes out to eat. I mean, it almost feeds into the fact that you have to have an industrial system just to have 20 different types of fried chicken at every 5 exits on a freeway. I mean, but that's where the consumption is coming from because that's what people are demanding. That's what they're used to.
Life is not black and white, and it's not 1 and 2, and it's not us and them. Yeah. It is so complicated, and people not being connected to their food, means that I've got to get a good job, as it stands right now. I have to get a good job, and I'm going to pay a gym membership. But I got to have that good job, so I can pay for that gym membership. And, I want to eat organic food, so I really got to have a good job, and I'll work little extra hours. So I work really hard to work out in a gym to buy healthy food.
I see where you're going.
Or I back it all up and dust it all off and go, wait a minute. I'll work really hard on my land, if you're fortunate enough to have it. And I work really hard on my land. I'll make that food.
Yeah. Well,
and I'll make a little extra for my neighbors.
Well, I can tell you, just there's so many studies and so many different things. Whenever people have like a conversation like this, the first thing many people react to is, oh, well, it's easy when you got 20 acres or 30 acres like we're fortunate enough to have. But it is amazing what can be grown in a 50 by 50 place, in a 50 by 50 spot. And it is amazing what you can grow with that.
In this day and age, a simple Google to see what people have turned, grow food, not lawns, so.
Well, and that
it's been done. It's been documented. You can look at it.
It is.
It's possible.
It is. One of the things that hits home with me, especially with preservation and old places, is the pressure of development on our landscape. So
we just had that. We just had a big go around in county council in Pickens County because
tell me about it.
Scenic Highway 11.
Yes.
Which is the Cherokee Foothills Highway, and it was designated by the state of South Carolina to be that scenic.
Meant to bring in tourism.
Now, depending on which county you go through, and I'll probably step on some toes, but some counties aren't quite as scenic as other counties. And the counties that are scenic, and I'm going to talk about Pickens because I live in Pickens, that particular part of it is in danger. Like you can literally see the encroachment coming in. So it was debated, do we put in what kind of regulations? And you say the word regulation and immediately people don't want to hear it. But at the same time, it's not you or your neighbor maybe that's going to strip the land, but example, a company came in from another town, bought 1,200 acres and stripped it right down to the red clay.
To do what? Housing?
To do nothing right now. Sold off the wood. It's sitting there. I do believe it was housing until COVID hit, but then that was scratched evidently and nothing. And it sits there, just collecting scars and running into Greenville's drinking water, Pickens drinking water. That's a watershed up there. So,
that's the biggest challenge I had up there. One of the last things we worked on in when I was with Preservation South Carolina was on 25 outside of Greenville. A developer come in and bought up a parcel, and it had 2 beautiful historic homes on it, and it was all old farm. And because of the modern economic pressures on families and the whole corporate system and everything, it puts people on a track of, I could only retire and live if I sell off everything I have.
Right.
Right. And couple that with a corporation from out of state that has tons of money, some of it funded with Japanese investment, targets those places and comes in and plops stuff. So this group had come and bought this place, and Greenville Group had stood up and said, no, we don't want this gone. And they talked about the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
That said 25 is to be a view shed and everything. And so the planning commission used that to say, no, you can't tear this stuff down. You need to come up with another thing. So I sat down with the guys and I said, here, we can, you could develop all this back here. I forget how many lots it was, but it was 1/4 acre lots, each one having a septic tank is what they were putting in. Each one.
Oof.
Yes. And so, but where the old houses were, I'm like, you could just make 2 lots there. And you could make more and redo the houses. And so we were in negotiations with that, and I went to go meet with them at their office. And their office was just a regular little modern office. It wasn't any construction. They were just people exchanging and brokering. And I walked in, and I bet it was 30 maps of similar projects all around
just about to say
Greenville. And I just sat there, and all I could think is, what type of parasitic structure is this that is coming in, a lot of it before an investment, grabbing up all this farmland that is a potential farmland ring around Greenville to help, and just developing it with houses that we all know in one generation will be substandard.
Yeah.